I just remember her facial expression. It was kind of like a look of shock.
And is that one of the reasons you didn't have a good feeling?
Probably.
Did you hear the
Yes.
shooting? Okay. Once you heard the shooting, what did you think that was?
I knew it was a gunshot.
And where did you think it had come from?
Abby's room.
Emotional testimony from teachers reliving the day that their fellow teacher, Abby Zwerner, was shot by a 6-year-old student. We're weighing the optics in that Virginia courtroom. Plus, murder suspect Austin Drummond now heading to a state prison to be held ahead of his trial. So why the transfer and how common is this? Plus, we're spotlighting missing Melody Buzzard. The case now drawing comparisons to another very high-profile case, the murders of cult mom Lori Vallow Daybell. And the mother of baby Emmanuel has her court hearing delayed for a few months. So is a plea deal in the works for Rebecca Harrow? We'll talk about it. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Wednesday morning to you. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? We planned a great show for you, so let's get it started. Grab that cup of coffee right now. It's time for my opening statement. Cuff her already. What's the holdup? Last week, Ashley Buzzard was reportedly given 72 hours to produce her daughter Melody or face arrest. She hasn't complied, and in my opinion, she needs to be jailed. Right now, she should be charged with child neglect and obstruction of justice because she's showing a complete lack of concern for her daughter Melody's safety, and she's refusing to help police find her. What kind of mother acts like that? Most moms would go to the ends of the earth for their missing child. But this sorry excuse for a mother allegedly had her child wearing a disguise while she drove from California to Nebraska and returned home without her daughter. Cuff her already. We can only hope and pray that precious Melody Buzzard is alive and well. It's clear we're not going to get that information from her mother, the woman whose job it is to protect her 9-year-old daughter. So let's together send up good vibes and prayers for Melody Buzzard and hope that someone soon can find her and bring her back home. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Did Alicia Andrews ever mention to you that Isaiah Chance was in a gang?
She mentioned that there were rumors that he was in a gang.
And when did she mention that? When was that conversation? Was that before June of 2024?
It was before June of 2024, but I can't give you a specific date.
In Florida, we've got the state's case resuming in the murder trial for defendant Alicia Andrews. So she's accused of being one of the participants in the ambush shooting that killed rising rapper Julio Folio. That's going to start up at 9 a.m. Eastern. In Wisconsin, we've got testimony continuing in the bad boyfriend murder trial for defendant Matthew Paul. This guy's accused of killing and concealing the body of his girlfriend, Stephanie Pavlins, whose remains were found in the woods. And in Virginia, we've got the civil case for teacher Abby Zwerner resuming at 9 a.m. She is suing the vice principal of her school, Ebony Parker, for $40 million after she was shot by a 6-year-old student. That is our top story for you here on Opening Statements. Very emotional testimony. To start this trial off, staff members recalling that horrific day.
What did you do after you heard the frantic call? I know, Mr. Rawls. It's okay.
He shot her. And I said, he did what? And she said, yeah.
Did you hear the
Yes.
shooting?
Yes.
Okay. Once you heard the shooting, what did you think that was?
I knew it was a gunshot.
And where did you think it had come from?
Abby's room.
I see blood on her leg, so I knew she was hit. I wasn't really sure. On this side, I see Jen open the door, the kids screaming and running out. I felt like I had a bubble of God around me, and I walked straight to him. He was standing there with his legs kind of spread open, arms crossed, and cocky.
The plaintiff in this case is claiming that the defendant didn't do enough to prevent the shooting, even though she had been warned several times that the student had a gun. So let's talk about what the jury may be thinking so far and the optics going on in that courtroom. Let's bring in our legal eagle, Casey Early. She's a criminal defense and civil rights attorney and our law enforcement expert, retired NYPD Sergeant Joe Giacalone. Good morning to you both. All right, so let's start with the safety aspect here going on that day in that school, and then I want to proceed to the legal threshold that has to be met here. So, Sarge, I want to start with you. Tell us your reaction when you heard what was put into evidence and put forth in the opening statements on opening day here about the alerts regarding this kid and the firearm.
It made me angry. I mean, you think about all the training, because I'm still a teacher now, so we go through all the training, the run, the hide, the fight, tell somebody, all the different aspects of it. And here you have a situation where someone has been told at least 3 times that there's an individual in the classroom with a gun or in the school with a gun, and they do nothing. And this is something where I think that the jury is going to send a message just like they did in the Crumbly case back in Michigan. It is just outrageous that you would have somebody who is a school administrator or assistant principal and not take care of it. And I think, even if I recall correctly, that someone had testified that she had said, well, the child's parents come and let them deal with it, so to speak, something like that. It's just mind-boggling.
It really is, and it is reminiscent of the Crumbly case. I'm so glad you said that, Sarge. Casey, I wondered if you were thinking the same, as we've done a lot of discussions together about that case. Your thoughts first on the safety aspect, and then we'll get to some of the legalities.
Yes, Julie, it doesn't cost anything to err on the side of caution. I always say that in this case, I can't even fathom my 11-year-old bringing a gun. But in this case, he was 6 years old and he had a reputation. So they should have erred on the side of caution. And I believe that Ms. Parker's reputation of ignoring teachers' complaints or not doing enough is what is at issue here. And just to see the raw emotions of the teachers, recalling the events, what happened, it's there. I'm here in Parkland, Florida, and we don't forget February 12, 2018. This community is still mourning the loss of the teachers and the staff. And the purpose of the administration is to ensure the safety of both the children and the staff. So the question becomes, what steps were in place or not in this case to ensure their safety? And there was also some allegations that his disciplinary records were allegedly hidden or misplaced. So it just shows that there was some foreseeability and possibly gross negligence in this civil case.
Yes, Casey. And speaking of the gross negligence, so that's what the allegation is. This isn't an easy threshold, is it? To say so, it's easy to throw out the word, oh, someone was negligent, but legally, what does the plaintiff need to put forth in order to win this case and actually prove gross negligence?
It definitely goes back to foreseeability. Was this something that the administration could have expected, or was there a pattern of behavior? And we know that there was. Even with the missing records, we have some of the teachers will testify as to his behavior, but we also have the warnings that came before the actual shooting that there was a possibility of a gun being in his possession. And then you have the response that his, quote, pockets were not big enough to hold a gun. So it shows that there was some form of warning and it wasn't heeded, or it wasn't investigated. So could this have been prevented? And I do believe that the plaintiff has proven, or will be able to prove, that not only could this have been prevented, there were not enough steps, actions, investigations, inquiries, something just to dispel the myth. He had a reputation of violence. So this should have been of concern for the administration.
Absolutely, Casey. He was just coming off a 2-day suspension for a violent episode. His behavior was so out of control that there was a rule put into place that he should have had a parent accompanying him every single day. And on this given day, mom wasn't there. You referenced one of the important facts about the pockets. I have that clip here when one of the staff members goes to the assistant principal's office to report this. Let's watch.
What do you tell Dr. Parker at this time?
So again, I tell her that I went and checked the bag. I told her just what I said to you all, what was in the bag. And then I also tell her that Abby texted me that they were out at recess, that he took something from the bag and he put it in his pocket.
Did you tell her you thought it could be a gun?
I mean, I told her that I reported that it was a gun. I mean, the whole time I assumed she thought it was a gun because that's what the girls reported, and I went and reported to her.
And what did she say in response to you when you said he put it in his pocket?
She did say that, you know, well, he has little pockets, and I said he put it in his jacket pocket. And I was kind of mad, you know, and I walked away.
I'd be mad too. Sergeant Joe Giacalone, what's your reaction when you watch that video and you hear the response?
I just find it unfathomable that somebody would act like this. I mean, is there another relationship between this principal and the family, and this is why this would have gone down this way? I mean, with all the school shootings that you've had, all the different security measures that we've put in place, all the different things that we have done to try to keep our kids safe in school, and you find out somebody that works in the school who is in charge is laissez-faire about it. I find it appalling, to tell you the truth.
Right. You know, and with your experience with firearms, does it also astound you that a 6-year-old would be so comfortable carrying in a backpack, concealing it in his pocket, and then firing it? I mean, I don't know. I haven't done the work that you have, you know, on the streets arresting people. I'm sure you've seen lots of things that have been astounding, Sarge. But 6 years old? Your thoughts on him?
Yes, I've never seen a 6-year-old at this point. I mean, it depends on the type of gun and the amount of pressure it takes to pull the trigger. But the point that it was in his mother's pocketbook and it was unsecured, and then it will also lead into speculation, the fact that, you know, there was gunplay in the house beforehand, that he was even comfortable about how to use it and what it's used for, and that kind of thing. I mean, when you get the description that he's standing there with his hands folded across his chest and everything else that goes along with it, you're just kind of saying that there is something definitely wrong in that home.
Right, right. Search him. Search him. I mean, what are we afraid of? You know, Casey, you do civil rights work. Are we afraid of you know, violating this child's rights so much so that we're going to sacrifice the safety of that whole building?
But you're stripped of your Fourth Amendment constitutional right to be free from unreasonable search and seizure when you enter the school grounds. So I'm searching. I mean, like my colleague stated, we're in a different era here. I mean, I remember the first time I touched a gun at a gun range, I was just nervous. So for this 6-year-old child to not only be comfortable holding, carrying, firing this gun, it shows that he had some experience. And if you have experience handling a gun as a 6-year-old, I'm looking at the parents. So we already know that there's some culpability over there. But there is no, the safety of the students, again, and the staff should prevail. And your Fourth Amendment rights, especially when you have warnings, when you make a report, should be investigated. I am completely appalled by this, and this has to change because we need to protect our students and the staff.
Right. Oh, I'm with you. My thoughts exactly, Casey. I'm with you with the nervousness every time I handle a fire. I'm incredibly nervous. You know, and the 6-year-old to be so comfortable. Yes, it's crazy to me. And you're right. You know, when you think about, so there was more than probable cause. And there's a question, and you made a great point, Casey. Does he even retain those rights in the school? This is like a, you know, a con law problem. Yeah, I mean, search him, search him. This is idiotic what happened here. I want you to take a deep breath. We're going to be covering this case at 9 o'clock. Have more analysis. Casey and Sergeant Joe Giacalone are staying with us. You do the same at home, please. When we come back, here's what's next on Opening Statements.
Prior to being taken in on these charges, sir, were you working anywhere?
I had a business, decided to run business, kids' parties, part-time shows, decorations, stuff like that.
Yeah, remember this guy, Austin Drummond? He's accused of murdering 4 family members, then kidnapping and abandoning a baby. Remember him? He's still awaiting his trial, but gonna do that in a state prison. We'll explain. Plus, missing Melody Buzzard, her case being compared to another very high-profile case that I know you at home followed closely. We'll talk about it when we come back.
I ended up asking him if he loved me. He said, I don't know. I said, do you love her? He said, I don't know.
That set you off?
Someone was stabbed?
Yes, she's on the floor.
I didn't have the intent to kill Sarah. I really just wanted to scare them.
It looks more like fury than fear. Did you kill Sarah to possess what she had with Josh?
Sorry.
Interview with a Killer. New episode Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific. Only on Court TV.
First charge this morning that you have before the court is 1 count of first-degree murder. It's alleged that on the 29th of July, Mr. Braden Williams was located deceased from apparent gunshot wounds on Carrington Road in Tiptonville in Lake County, Tennessee. During the course of the investigation, it was determined that Mr. Drummond did with premeditation knowingly and intentionally kill Mr. Braden Keith Williams with the use of a firearm.
Quadruple murder suspect Austin Drummond will be moved to state prison ahead of his upcoming trial, as officials say that his behavior behind bars includes covering his cell door with feces. How disgusting. And that's creating problems, understandably so. So they say that's the reason for the move. Now, this guy, you might remember, he made national headlines when he caused a manhunt after police say he murdered 4 family members and then kidnapped and abandoned a baby. Well, he was back in court on Monday for some unrelated charges, but the issue was raised during that appearance that he's a problem in the county jail. So here's how Lake County Assistant District Attorney Andrew Hayes has described Mr. Drummond's behavior, saying, quote, he's had some disciplinary issues with possession of Suboxone strips, which is a Schedule II narcotic in Tennessee, or a Schedule II controlled substance. So prohibited. He's also had some issues with covering his cell door with various things such as paper and feces. Drummond will now be moved to a state prison within the Tennessee Department of Corrections system, where he's set to remain in custody until his trial is held on May 7th, 2026. The exact prison location not revealed quite yet. But what we want to talk about first this morning with our power panel is how common is it for prisons to house detainees who ordinarily would be at the local jail? Let's bring in retired Assistant Sheriff in Charleston County, South Carolina, Mitch Lucas, who also ran the largest jail in South Carolina, and retired NYPD Detective Tom Smith. Good morning to you both. Mitch, I'll start with you. How common is this?
It's not real common, but it happens. It's called safekeeping, typically a small jail, and in this case, the jail's 149 beds. And they're not, they don't have the resources to deal with a real disciplinary problem like this guy is. So they send him to a state prison where they have better resources, more manpower, more programs to deal with it better than a small jail would.
Mm-hmm, sure. You know, it sounds like this guy's on his way to picking up some criminal charges to me. What do you say, Detective Smith?
Well, he's not a good guy. I mean, you know, just look at his past. He's not your model citizen as well as an inmate. But the judge has a responsibility to not just the defendant in this. He has a responsibility to other inmates and the corrections officers to keep them safe. And I think that has a big part in moving him to a facility where he can be more monitored and kept under control so there's no more violence towards anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at his criminal past. And now that you mention it, Detective, take a look at this. So this guy started young. He was charged with aggravated robbery for a store incident at the age of 17. threatened to go after jurors in a robbery case. Also charged with attempted murder while he was behind bars, tried to kill somebody while in custody. And I've talked about this before on the show. I've really popped off quite a bit about it, how this guy shouldn't have been given a bond after he picked up those charges in jail. He should have been held, but he was let out. He was given a bond, and then he picked up the instant case we're talking about with the shooting of 4 family members that he allegedly did, according to authorities, in the kidnapping and abandoning of the baby, allegedly. I have a clip of Drummond speaking to Scripps News Nashville during a jailhouse interview. He's talking about the fear that he has when he's behind bars. Let's take a look.
As long as it's not related to the facts of your case or anything that could infringe on your Fifth Amendment rights, I'm fine with that, sir.
I'm just wondering, is now the time for me to ask for a quick speedy trial? How's that?
Well, now that I've appointed you counsel, any motions that will be filed will go through your attorney, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
I was afraid because I knew bad things happened. And I was afraid that because I was an informant, things would go wrong. Things would happen to me.
All right, as you heard, Drummond saying that he was an informant, claims to have worked for federal authorities, later saying in that same interview with our Scripps News local station that he had become a member of the Vice Lords gang during a previous stint while he was locked up. But he says his cover was blown in the weeks before the homicides occurred. So, this was raised in our newsroom yesterday. We were discussing this. Could he be acting out in the jail, doing these disgusting things because he's in fear for his life, to try to deter other inmates from coming near him? Sheriff, what do you say? Sheriff, you're shaking your head. Tell us why, please.
No, I've actually spoken with someone that's a little bit involved with this jail, and this is a retaliation for enforcing rules. He's acting out because he's not getting something he wants, or just being disruptive because he can. But spearing feces over your cell door is not anything that would make you safer in jail, or even make him. It's going to make the inmates that are in there more angry because it disrupts their lives. When he disrupts the jail, it disrupts everybody's lives in jail. So this isn't going to protect him any. This is just retaliation for rules enforcement in jail.
You know, I really appreciate the insight, Sheriff. Tom, let me go to you next on something. This guy claims to be a member of the Vice Lords gang. He's a violent felon. Someone thought it was a good idea to give him a bond. And it was while he was out on bond that he picks up the instant case. Your thoughts on whether the system failed the public?
Well, if you look through the criminal justice system in certain cases that are going on lately, there's a lot of failures. You see this narrative all over the place of bonds and cash bail and all that. And then these individuals going out who are violent to begin with. Let's make that clear. These aren't just, first-time offenders. These are violent people that judges are letting out on the street to let them do whatever they want. And in the most cases that we talk about, even on your show, Julie, they always tend to commit another violent act, which a lot of times ends the life of somebody.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right, Tom. So let's talk about his push for a speedy trial here. And now with the move to a state prison, Sheriff Mitch, do you think this is going to make anything difficult for him now being housed in state custody? I would imagine it's not going to be quite as easy to prep with his lawyer in the county jail. What do you think?
Well, I mean, this happens on an infrequent basis, but the lawyer will have as much access as he needs, and the prison will cooperate with him. The one thing that prison officials are not going to want to do just have to go in and explain to a judge why he wasn't able to prepare for his case properly. So depending on where they locate him physically, how far it is from Lake County, that would be the only obstacle. But even then, Zoom and other methods of communication are available.
Gotcha. And then we're just about out of time, but Detective Tom, quickly, there's been speculation that maybe other people were involved in this incident. I'm curious, do you think that this guy had help if he allegedly did what he's accused of?
Well, no, I don't. But, you know, that's why investigations continue while trials go on. You know, just because someone's under arrest, the investigation doesn't stop. So if there is any outlining factors in this and other suspects that they need to look into, they'll continue the investigation and see if that's actually the case.
Such great insight from you both. As always, Detective Tom Smith, Sheriff Mitch Lucas, thank you both so much for being on Opening Statements today. We'll see you soon. Coming up next, here's what we've got.
We're all looking for answers.
I felt like nobody was doing anything, like actually moving. So I wanted to reach the community. I know a lot of us have daughters, and it's heartbreaking.
Where is Melody Buzzard, the 9-year-old girl still missing? And her disappearance is now drawing some similarities to another very high-profile case. Plus, defendant Rebecca Haro needs more time. Her court hearing postponed for a couple months. So is a plea deal in the works? We'll discuss.
We have not been able to locate the child as of yet. We are in contact with the mom, but we've not been able to determine the whereabouts of the 9-year-old.
We are shining a spotlight on the possible parallels in the case of Melody Buzzard and the infamous Doomsday murders. So Melody Buzzard's family members continue to be hopeful this morning, praying for her safe return. Investigators are focusing in on a road trip that she took with her mom. Her mom returned to California without her. So here's a photo from, this was a car rental business, and surveillance footage captured Melody appearing to wear a wig with straighter hair. She has beautiful curly hair that we've seen her in the pictures. That's her natural hair. This, investigators believe, was a disguise, and she's also got the hood up. Now, this news has been circulating all over the country, and Colby Ryan, the only surviving child of Lori Vallow Daybell, has compared Melody's case to that of his siblings, JJ and Tylee, while speaking with our friend Ashley Banfield on her show, Banfield, on News Nation.
A parent should be able to show you their child within a couple of seconds or know where they are at all times. The fearful thing is seeing them for a short amount of time and then them disappearing and all the families wondering, just the similarities are scary. I will personally tell you that I hope that is not the case. I never want to see what happened to my family repeated, but it's hard to hear it because there's, for me personally, just too many similarities.
Colby Ryan, he's a really, really sweet guy. He has been through so much trauma, losing his siblings, and certainly understands this is a position no one wants to find themselves in. So take a look at this. This is the timeline of some of the key moments. So October 7th was the day that photo was taken that I just showed you, where she appears to be wearing the wig, and they're at the rental car business. So mom rents a car, travels to Nebraska with her daughter Melody. And then she comes back home without her. We know that a week later, on the 14th of October, there was a welfare check requested by the school district. Melody, of course, not found. So now we know police need to get involved here. So detectives searched the residence on the 15th. Melody not found there, and mom is not cooperating. The FBI joins in on October 18th. Good on them, because there could be the crossing of state lines and potentially committing criminal activity here. We'll see what the facts show. On October 22nd, Melody remaining an at-risk missing person, according to investigators. Mom still uncooperative. And I remember last week there was a report, I believe it was the Daily Mail, reported that mom was given 72 hours to produce her daughter or face arrest. cuff her already. Let's bring in our guest. Let's bring in retired NYPD Sergeant Joe Giacalone to talk about this. Sarge, should she be a caller?
Well, she's going to be eventually. I think they're holding off until they can, make their case. Unless she's a flight risk, I don't see what we would refer to as dropping paper on her just to hold her. I'm sure that the detectives have sat down with the district attorney and have gone through all the different scenarios. And yes, we can have a child neglect and we can have all those charges. But how long will they be able to hold her on those? So I think, patience is going to play out here. There is a lot of evidence that needs to be gathered in this case. We have the rental car, which is your movable crime scene. Listen, they had to stop for gas, food, bathroom breaks. So trying to figure out where those locations potentially were to see if there was video of any time that they can actually see Melody, maybe in the car or she gets out of the car. So then investigators can pinpoint a little bit closer to where they think Melody might be. And that's going to be painstaking. Easy pass records, if there's any tolls on the roads. There is so much data that they're going to have to get, cell phone records, you name it. So it's going to take a while to cull through all that information.
Definitely, Sarge. Sarge, I got to tell you, what I'm most fearful of for this child is trafficking. Do you have any suspicion that her mother could have taken her to Nebraska for those purposes and sold her, left her with someone?
I think it's going to be a theory of the investigators for sure, and this is where cell phone records, internet records are going to play a role in that, because if you're going to try to pull off something like that, there's going to be an electronic trail to that kind of behavior. So, they're going to have to get the subpoenas from all these companies, and they're going to have to cull through it. Either way, I don't think this ends well, unfortunately. So let's just hope that she is alive and okay. And then they'll have to deal with the consequences of what happened to her afterwards. And right now, it's just the investigators need to find her and figure out exactly what happened here.
Yes. I have a clip from Melody's half-sister, Franz Borghardt, joining us as well. Franz, I'll come to you on the other side of this clip. So this is Melody's half-sister had an encounter with Ashley Buzzard during an interview with a local TV station. So let's roll this clip, and you're going to see that Ashley has no interest in talking.
Ashley, it's Karina. I just want to see if you're okay. If Melody's okay, how you guys are doing. Do you have the time to speak with me?
Ooh, okay. Clearly dismissing her as well. Look at that. Who acts like that? Franz, what do you think when you see this clip, please?
Oh, this one always gets me on both sides, because on the one hand, the human response is to acknowledge something, right? To respond. On the other hand, I don't know that I would respond much differently, Julie, and let me explain. If you show up to a house or my house with a camera and you're trying to get sound bites, I don't necessarily know that if I'm in that situation, I want to talk to you either. So, it's a double-edged sword, ultimately horrible optics, but candidly, if it ever gets before a jury, I think it can be explained away as look, this is a very difficult time. You're showing up to my house. I don't want to talk to the media. I don't want to be a soundbite. And, at the end of the day, though, it doesn't look great.
Now, this is awful. And so Karina Meza is the concerned family member. She is Melody's half-sister, and so she's knocking on the door trying to get mom to talk. I read that dad is deceased, and Melody's father has been deceased for a long time, so dad's not in the picture here. Franz, in terms of legally getting mom to open up, she's not willingly talking to family. She's not talking to authorities. Legally, is there anything you can think of that could nudge her to speak?
If you hook her and book her, that may make it real for her. And ultimately, if your priority is finding the child or finding out what happened to the child, right now there's this air of, hey, she's probably going to get arrested. But it's not real yet, right? It's not until you're being booked, until the cold steel is on your wrist. It's not real. And if you want her to possibly open up, if you have enough to arrest her, if you have probable cause, I'd go on and arrest her and then hope that she starts divulging information during a very well orchestrated interrogation, which hopefully will find out what happened to this missing little 9-year-old.
Yeah, I'm with you, Franz. Arrest this mother. Sarge, tell me, let's say they don't. Let's say, you were saying earlier that could be that they're just kind of going to let things play out. They're building their case. If she's not a flight risk, not so concerned. What about surveillance of her? Can we assume that she's being surveilled around the clock, Sarge?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this is what I was referring to before, is she's not a flight risk. You know, as soon as she becomes a flight risk, I think that's when they'll move in. But they have to just, they'd be very careful with that. But also, you remember, when somebody's free like this, they think that maybe there isn't any evidence against them and they make a mistake. They make a phone call, they send that text message, or they do an email that they shouldn't. So I just think that patience will win out the day in this in regards to what happens with the mother. Now, with the child, it's a whole different situation. It's a frantic search for her and to find out exactly what happened with it.
Yeah, it's so heartbreaking. And you see this sibling of hers brokenhearted, and there's neighbors, people in the community are brokenhearted. We've seen them protesting outside of Mom's house, and it is reminiscent of when JJ and Tylee were missing, and Colby Ryan, I'm sure, remembers well, where everybody is pleading for them. Where are the kids? Where are the kids? And Lori and Chad were off in Hawaii, and we were saying no good parent is going to act like that. And look at the result. Let's hope the result isn't the same on this one. Great discussion with you both. Franz, stand by, please. Sergeant Joe Jackalone, we got to say goodbye and thank you to you. Appreciate you coming on the show this morning. We'll see you soon. Up next here on Opening Statements.
My question is where's Emmanuel? I want to know where Emmanuel's at. Whatever the situation is, I just want justice to be brought.
Now the mother of baby Emmanuel has a postponement in her court case. What does that mean? Does that mean a plea deal is on the horizon? We'll talk about what justice should be for her. And I want to show you a live look at the courtroom in Virginia. That's where we're heading when Court TV Live begins. We've got the case of the 6-year-old who shot his teacher, and the teacher's now suing the principal.
I'm going to ask you a lot of intensely personal questions. How do you explain it? The worst crime anyone can imagine. Do you feel like you took the fall for this murder? Tell me in your own words, what happened? Let's get started.
Interview with a Killer. New episode Saturdays at 8 Eastern and Pacific. Only on Court TV.
Welcome back. Let's talk about a possible plea deal and how it may be tipping the scales of justice in the murder of baby Emmanuel Haro. So his mom, Rebecca, was in court on Tuesday. If you blinked, you might have missed it.
Ms. Haro, you have the right to have your preliminary hearing heard within 10 court days concluded within 60 calendar days of your arraignment. You waive those rights and agree instead that your preliminary hearing would be timely if held within 10 court days of January 21st. May I be ordered back to this department on January 21st for felony settlement conference.
Rebecca Haro was supposed to be in court for that felony settlement conference you had mentioned. However, court proceedings got kicked down the road for 3 months. So why the postponement? Is a plea deal in the works? Of course, that was the speculation that arose from this, right? Or is she going to trial? Let's talk about it. Baby Emmanuel still missing this morning. Dad already pleaded guilty to baby Emmanuel's murder. So what's left here? What is the justice for mom Rebecca in all this? Let's bring in our legal eagles to talk about it. Attorneys Kesia Early and Franz Borghardt on the show here. All right, so Kesia, when you heard about this postponement, what did you think could be the reason?
I immediately thought this is a plea deal, especially after the father took his plea. And let me just say this. baby Emmanuel definitely has his wings in heaven. And as for mom and dad, a special torture awaits them if they don't repent, confess, and also tell authorities where the body is. We know mom has some involvement in this, and we already know what dad did. It's sickening. Every time I hear these stories about a parent who has been entrusted to nurture, to care, to love, to feed into an innocent child, and then this comes about. So I do believe that there's some plea negotiations that have to be worked out, and it's going to take time to do so. I don't believe this case will go to trial because her actions before, during the investigation, and even now just shows that she had some involvement.
Right, Casey, right. At the very least, we know she filed a false report. We know that because we saw it. We literally saw it on television. She obstructed justice. We saw that literally when she's holding up the sign with him and they're saying the baby's missing. Okay, so those two are slam dunks for prosecutors. The tough thing is the murder charge. Did she murder this baby, or was that all dad? Franz, how might this be sorted out behind closed doors?
So if you're her, you're maybe playing a little bit of what I call criminal justice chicken. Like, you're trying to see if the deal gets better. You're trying to see if they're bluffing. You're trying to see, well, you know, look, you've convicted the dad and you've gotten your pound of flesh. Why do you need to come get after me? I call it criminal justice chicken because, again, things may not be entirely real to her. It was real to her when dad got convicted, but it's not really real until you've got to have that gut check moment of making the decision, are you going to trial or are you pleading? I suspect there's some pretty good negotiations going on. I suspect she is going to be in a position where she doesn't necessarily, it's going to sting. The plea deal is going to sting, and that may be the cause for the delay. Who knows? But I suspect she is going to take a plea, Julie, and I think it's going to be probably in the very near future.
Right. You know, something I think that's worth a mention, and Franz and Casey, you both know this well. It's hard sometimes when, you know, we watch these cases on TV, on court TV, and we're not seeing all the other cases that the prosecutor's office and the defense attorney have on their desks, in their offices that they're working on. You know, it could be, Casey, it could it not be that maybe these prosecutors just have not had time to conference with her attorneys and sit down and sort through, okay, what exactly is your client's culpability here? To what extent? You know, we have videotape of a lot of it, but behind closed doors. You know, what do you think? Could it just be that they both need more time here?
Yeah, I mean, I was a former public defender. I get it. My caseload was 220, and I understand the caseload of prosecutors as well. But oftentimes, if prosecutors are really confident in their case, they will extend that plea deal. But to my colleague's point about playing the courtroom chicken, sometimes they put a deadline on it. So if you don't take that plea by this deadline, you're going to trials, and that plea is revoked. So if there is a plea deal extended, maybe that time frame will not only give the defense time to see if whether or not they want to accept the deal, but if that deal is not accepted, it also gives the state time to go into a different direction of preparing this case for trial. So it can be either or a combination of both. But either way, I do believe that this case is going to be resolved because there's too much evidence against her. And she didn't have to actually commit the murder so the state can properly try this case and find her guilty for murder.
Right. A great insight from you both. Yeah, I wish I had a picture from that time. If either of you have one from your time in public service in your respective offices, I mean, I would have a stack of cases. So you can see my hands like this high. I'm not even kidding. And I would carry them into the courtroom. I mean, truly, sometimes higher. And that's what you're resolving in a day when you do public service. We got to leave it there for now. Franz, you're coming along for Court TV Live. We're excited for that. Casey, go win some cases. We got to let you get to court. See you soon.